Do you want to improve at a quicker pace? Check out GitGUDRacing.com, where I'm offering the most accessible coaching sessions on the market. Now for the track guide. Turn 1, very important corner, it leads to a big straight, so you really want to maximize being early on throttle. I use as a reference for braking these stains of dirt on the tarmac. You can see them better whenever you're approaching the corner, like right here you can see the tarmac having some stains of dirt, and whenever I stop seeing them, because here is the last stain, I'm applying the brakes. As soon as I don't see them anymore, I'm applying the brakes, and I don't brake that hard into this corner. You can get away with a higher peak pressure like 90, 95. You will gain some time on entry, you will rely on the ABS, but you want to do more and more laps and the tires are gonna overheat. On this track, overheating the tires is a huge issue, so I will advise for a more conservative approach. I'm picking close to 80, so 79, 78, and I really want to use all the track in this corner. I want to open it up as much as I can. Since it's an important corner, you really want to prepare it a lot more than other corners. So even few centimeters to the left can mean being earlier on throttle, some milliseconds earlier, and gaining you maybe half a tenth by being that early on throttle. So really push yourself to use almost the grass on turn in. You can see here that I used a bit the grass in the previous attempts, because the car is not gonna spin. You're not gonna lose performance under braking if you barely touch the grass. So use as much of the track as possible, and whenever you start releasing the brakes, you should turn in more and more and more as you release the brakes, so that you will avoid locking up the inside tire or triggering the ABS for the inside tire in this corner. Because if that's gonna happen, then the car won't turn as much as possible. Kind of something similar is happening for me. So right now I'm starting to turn, and I miss by some margin the apex. You can go way closer than what I did here. So you can put your car almost to this green part with the inside tire. However, I was able to be early on throttle, so right now I'm back on throttle. Your goal will be though to get closer to the wall, a bit closer, and maintain the same throttle application. You will gain just a bit of time, but most importantly, you really want to push your throttle to be as early as possible. And whenever you're gonna push your throttle, notice this shape on my throttle input. So it goes initially up, then it has this slight shape going up and then vertical again. This is because the grip levels in these corners are changing, and your input has to reflect this, because otherwise you will either spin or you're gonna trigger the traction control in this corner. And since again it's a big straight, you want the rear tires to work as efficiently as possible, so you will have a nice getaway from this corner. You don't want to spin with the rear. It's one of those corners in which you really need to take care of the rear tires because of the exits. So right now, whenever you're going into the corner right here, you have a lot of grip. So it's a compression, you have a lot of grip. You can put the power down. So initially you can put the power down more quickly, like right now. But then at this point, as soon as you get the compression and the suspension is unloaded, because initially the car goes down and now it goes up again. The nose goes up again. And whenever this happens, you're gonna lose grip. And because you lose this grip, it's just the mechanical grip by the camber of the track, then you have to release a bit the throttle, so stop building it up. You still have to build it up, but you don't build it up with the same speed. So I'm still maintaining and going up, but I release the initial pressure. I keep it that way just for a while, and then I'm going flat out. So this is something that you should see in your throttle input, because otherwise, if you're gonna go instantly to 100%, you will cook the rear tires. If you're gonna wait too much initially and you're gonna miss the throttle point, then you will be slower on this straight. So it's a very difficult corner just because of this big straight. So don't underestimate it. Now, around here it's flat out. Eau Rouge and Radion or the same, flat out. You only want to apex here as late as you can and touch that curb. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. So let's move on to Le Combe. And for Le Combe, I use as a reference for braking this curb. I'm trying to brake not in the middle of it, but if I'm gonna choose a point, that's gonna be the middle of the beginning and the middle part. So it's somewhere around here where I'm applying the brakes. I'm using all this curb to put the car to open up the corner as much as possible. You can brake quite hard initially, so picking around 85, going close to 90, and then trailing. You need to have a long bleeding of the brakes, as in this shape, and using this curb, and then instantly going back on throttle, giving just a blimp of throttle until I mount this curb again. And the idea here is to have the car more in the center of the track. You don't want your car to be to the far right, because if it's gonna be around here on the right side, you won't have enough time to reposition to the left side right here so that you can take the next corner, because the next corner, this one, the one in the distance, that's the one which matters. So if you're not gonna be on the proper position to take this corner, you're gonna lose a lot of time. So from the center of the track, flat out, arriving at the edge here and then instantly turning. I'm doing a lift while turning, still in third gear, modulating it with the throttle and mounting this curb. I found this to be the faster line for me, so try to go over this curb so you can carry this speed and then use all the track here on the exit. You won't pick an off track while doing so. And for this corner, you really have to treat it like a double apex corner. So initially I'm braking diagonally towards this corner. At the beginning of the curb, I'm starting to apply the brakes. And then I'm bleeding off the brakes because I don't want the inside tire to overheat or to lock up. And at the same time, I don't want my rear tires to lose grip because I'm turning and braking at the same time. So it's not easy to carry this trail brake. However, when you're gonna bleed the brakes, you have to first meet this curb once, then the car is gonna get pushed more in the center, but not too much in the center. And while braking, you're gonna bring the car again to this curb, to the second apex around here, and then putting the power down. So it's important to not have a gap in between the inputs here, but also to have a long trailing zone so that whenever you're taking that long right-hander, you're always on the brakes up until the point that you meet the second apex and you go on throttle slightly before it. Going into the no-name corner, I use just a bit of this curb, so barely putting the tires on it, then a quick dab on the brakes, just to make the car rotate, and then going back on power. You shouldn't brake too much in this corner. I think you can brake a bit more than what I did, and it will make the car point even more. You can also use more of this curb, so if you're gonna brake more, the car is gonna lean to the left side just a bit, and then you can go over this curb to this part of the curb, because right now I'm just using the red and white curb. You can use more than that, I think it's gonna be faster. Now building up the throttle, and for pull-on, for the fast right-hander, I use as a reference for braking this traffic lights on the right side. As soon as they are in my view, like very closely to those, I'm starting to apply the brakes and I'm downshifting 2 gears while still trailing, because ideally I want to treat this as a double apex again. So the first apex is here early, now the car gets pushed to the right side and now I'm apexing here again. So double apex corner. I found that if I'm gonna use more track, like if the car gets pushed on this part of the track, I don't gain that much. I found that covering more distance really doesn't make me gain more, but maybe you can do it if you're gonna try it more and more. This was the first lap out of the pits. Did some laps before that, but then reset it to pits. Full fuel, and the tires probably were not in the optimum window. However, it didn't work for me to use this part, so experiment with it. Maybe in the later stages of the race it's gonna be worth it. Now moving into the next corner, I want to align myself with this curb and I want to mount it while braking, and I'm braking at the moment that I'm reach it. So don't brake too hard initially, but then bleed off the brakes, and I want to follow this right curb. I just want to stay close to it because at the exit, ideally, I want to be very closely to this white line here. While being full throttle, I aim to go at 100% throttle in between those two corners. So getting to 100, and then I'm doing a lift and a brake to make the car point, and then back to 100 using all this space on the right side. And for this corner, you should mount this, let's say this thing on the left side. There's a patch of dirt, or it looks like so. You can put your tires on it while approaching it, because ideally at turn-in you want to already be mounting the red sausage curb. So prepare it beforehand. Now going onto this curb, using all this curb for turn-in, and I'm trail braking in third gear. I found that second gear is gonna give me the rotation that I want. However, I'm pretty sure that in fixed setup the third gear is gonna be faster, so I'm doing a downshift to second and I'm apexing this curb right here, then building up the throttle. I think it's gonna be faster with third gear. You just have to brake a bit more initially, a bit more than that, and then make sure that you're gonna use more curb than what I did here. I was understeering at this point, so not a good corner for me. The idea is to put the power down early. That's the whole point of it, because again we have a big straight, and ideally you want to put the power down at this curve. Like what I did here it wasn't bad in terms of the moment that I went on throttle. It's just that because of the understeer, because of slight oversteer by going in second gear, the tires are overheated, and right now I will have a bit less grip, and this will show while taking this corner, because even though I apex a bit earlier, the car is not turning. So I have to do this lift to not get the off track, but this is a big red flag. Like this lift here costed me 1/10, at least 1/10. That's for sure 1/10. So a small lift, this is like 15% lift, is 1/10 for this type of straight. So what you want to focus here, after you use all the track on the exit, you want to apex late. With a fixed setup, the car won't turn as much, and if the tires are already overheated, you will miss it. So apex just a bit later, so that you won't run out of track around here, keeping it flat. And now going into the last corner, this is again easy flat. And for the final one, I use as a reference for braking the beginning of this dirt on the track. So it starts to be more visible around here, and whenever I arrive there, I'm picking hard initially. I'm going to 85% 90 brakes, and then I bleed it off. I plan to use just a bit of this curb on the left while still maintaining the brake pressure, because it's important to not drop the brakes too quickly. You're gonna lose braking performance if you're gonna do that. So still holding the brakes, still holding, and now I'm trailing in first gear. I want to apex closely to this red sausage curve without touching it, and I'm still trailing at this point with 2% brake just to make the car point. And as soon as I unwind the wheel, and I try to unwind the wheel, I'm trying to give it a 100% blimp of throttle. I just want to gain a bit in between those two corners, and then to rotate the car and take it. So I give it 100% for a slight moment, then I'm applying the brakes to make the car rotate, and then I'm building up the throttle again to 100% using all the track. And in short, that's a track guide with the Ferrari fixed. I wish you a great week ahead, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.